Welcome to a special series where we interview a host of notable people from the Genius 100 Summit in Los Cabos, Mexico, on the moment that changed everything. Here, you'll learn their secrets to success, gain invaluable insights into what shaped their careers, and key takeaways on what it takes to be a leader in their field.
This is absolutely what we need. This is absolutely the future. We have to get on this.
Talk to people who think so beautifully about big, complex challenges.
G100 Los Cabos, Mexico, a special series on the moment that changed everything.
So what were you like as a kid?
That's a nice question. I'm an introvert, so I was fairly shy and quiet, but I played a lot of competitive sports. I was a competitive swimmer. I did a ringette, which is competitive female ice sport at the time. I played competitive soccer. So I loved working in teams, but I didn't like saying much. And so I was like hustler to win. I was hyper competitive, but good in school, just minding my own business and not so exciting, truthfully. So
Tell me about your competitive swimming.
So that's actually a cool question. I almost died drowning twice as a kid. I was 2 and my mom turned around and I was in the bottom of the pool, and I remember very little. I was little, but I just have moments of flashes where someone pulled me out. And then I was 5 and I was in a boat collision and the boat capsized and I was under the boat. And no one's ever asked me about swimming, but I became fiercely determined to pass my swim lessons, and I kept failing because I was afraid to dive into the water.
Okay.
So I eventually did pass. I mean, I think like after the 3rd time you did a badge, they just got rid of you and were like, next, and pushed you on. But what I realized was I actually loved the water. So I turned a big fear into a passion and I became a racer.
And what did you swim?
Freestyle.
Serious?
50 meter freestyle, yeah.
50s, 100s?
50s.
All right, cool.
Wasn't the fastest, but I did it.
Yeah, but you still did it. You still competed.
I did, of course.
And it's always, that horrific part of seeing someone go by you, which I always hated. Or they were already ahead and I could never catch up.
That's right. Just get there. So I tell my daughter now, I'm like, just look forward. Don't look on your peripherals. Just focus forward. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I used to get upset when I saw someone's feet. Like, it used to drive me
know,
nuts because
right?
That's like a body length thing,
It's like a smidgy bit of wake coming at your face.
Yeah.
Like, see you later.
And how long did you swim for?
Well, I attempted to join a swim club for like 10 years and then finally achieved it. I stopped racing when I was about 16. So it was,
And what did you do after for sports?
Oh, good question. Well, at that time I was a competitive soccer player as well. So I kept on with soccer until I was about maybe 17. And then I started kickboxing. I did a lot of kickboxing.
Do you still?
So I had an accident about 10 years ago, and I actually lost the mobility, much of it in my shoulders, and I wasn't able to throw the punch. It was the first thing I said to the doctor was like, can I go back to please punch a punching bag? And he was like, no, that's over for you. So now I find solace in swimming without my arms, mostly because I don't have full rotation. So I use boards and I do laps. I do yoga. Oddly, it's a little awkward when I do yoga and walk and do other stuff.
So tell me about education. Where'd you go to school?
Good question. I went to the University of Ottawa for my undergrad in
Where
media.
are you from originally?
Ottawa.
Okay.
I didn't go far. I was young. I graduated high school early and ended up fairly young at university. Went to U of O. I did comms and media studies. Then I went to London School of Economics for law. Then I went to back to Ottawa U for more law, and then to American University in Washington to have another law degree.
Josh, did you catch the bird? Did you see that?
That was our friend being like, move along,
Did
sister.
you see that?
Yeah, I did. Let's be clear. That's that feeling when you're losing the swimming race. It's like long gone.
All right, let's go back.
Sure.
Ottawa, then LSE.
Yep.
Good for you to go there. I was at school in France.
Nice.
And I was at Sorbonne, and I didn't know what to do
Amazing.
after, so I went to see LSE.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to work that hard. Like, I met a couple of kids, and the work ethic was unbelievable, and I just didn't want to do that. But it was a tough school.
It was a tough school. They tricked me. Like, all I saw was London, and I'm like, oh, the museums, the fashion, the shopping, and I got there in the first week. I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? No,
Yeah.
It was fun.
But did you arrive there a poor student?
I was a struggling student. I worked 3 jobs to be there. But
Right.
that was quite all right. And I worked away at it and yeah, did all right.
So, tell me about your work.
Sure. You know, law took me so far, but I had some fairly big life-changing experiences in London, of all places. I was there for the terrorist attacks in 7/7, and it changed my entire trajectory of my life, but it also threw me awkwardly but head first into philanthropy and doing good in the world. And I got an early on experience building one of the first legal clinics for creators in Canada. And then I did some pro bono work with the music industry, helping artists get their royalties. And I realized how fulfilling it was. And, you know, I was in and out of sort of legal careers. I was a trade negotiator. I wrote laws as a policymaker. I worked at BCE in copyright and handled all kinds of cool stuff for their businesses. But, you know, I wasn't fulfilled in my heart. And it wasn't really a thing. I had an accident, you know, a couple years into my role at BCE, and my body morphed in a funny way. And there was a moment in time, it felt like an eternity, but it wasn't clear if I had terminal cancer or not. And I had a baby, and it was sort of all a big mess. And I thought, all right, well, I don't know what it is, but I better figure something out. What's my plan here either way? And so I committed myself to thinking through legacy building, and then it kind of all just went from there. And I was okay. There was no cancer. So
Yeah.
just to not leave people hanging on that
It was
one.
a scare.
It was a scare. The bone mutated in a really funny way that looks awfully close to a bone cancer, but it's actually hyperarthritic, and it was just a weird reaction in the body. So I'd rather a weird reaction. So it was all right. I took it.
So, part of Genius 100 is helping others. You've chosen a life of that now. Do you have the time to do it? You have how many children?
One.
How old is your daughter?
12.
Okay. So, you're spending a great deal of time with your daughter as well.
Of course,
Okay.
yeah.
How do you balance it? What are you doing so you're able to do both well?
I appreciate that. I mean, I do lots of things. It's about your priorities and living your values. And so one of the big areas, you know, that I felt really frustrated about when I was younger and trying to think through legacy building and building a career and being a mom and being around as a family person, and it was like, how do you balance? This is a great question. How do you balance it all? And they all felt like separate lanes, and they aren't, and they don't have to be. And so I integrate, I multitask, I overlap. There's a term, I'm blanking on it right now, but it's the concept of putting multiple objectives into one activity. And so I've been supporting and building out purposeful businesses for other people, lines of business, writing laws, doing all kinds of projects and work, but always with a view that if I could figure out that problem of how to help people balance it, make it faster to do the good thing, the right thing, I can save them some time, but I can also give them some time to do more. And therein lies where I put all my effort. So working on things, being patient. Sometimes things take time. You can't put 110% into it because you've got other commitments, and you just re-navigate your efforts. And then other times you can put 110% into it and you go all out. And that's been the last decade of my life, is just being flexible, rolling with it, and giving it.
What's your daughter like?
Oh, she's fun. She's honest and wise. She's hilarious. She's shy. She's a good heart, though, and she has a very clear sense of right and wrong, which is good. Very creative little mind, but, you know, she was a baby when I was going through my health scare, and very much a baby as I decided what my next steps would be. And one of the decisions I made was she would come with me. And so she's been at every big charitable thing we've done. She's been a part of it. She sits beside me in the office and we work on things together. I ask her, I say, what would you tell your friends? You know, what do you think about this? Does that make sense? Now I can say, you know, if you read it, does it make sense to you? Like, if it doesn't make sense to you, we're throwing it in the garbage. So what do you think? And, you know, she's awesome. She's a team player.
And what were your parents like?
My mom worked a lot. I had a mom, she's my only parent at home, and she put a lot of food on the table, really supportive, but she was working a lot. And she sort of said, you know, Tanya, you can do anything you want, so just go do it. Figure it out and do it.
Is your daughter more like you or more like your mother?
I think she's her own person. That's a great question. She's got a little bit of me, but I think she's smarter and wiser. She's, you know, creative. My mom's really creative, so she's got my mom's creativity, but She's like the better version of us combined, maybe, as we hope they will be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Tell me about Kind Village.
Thank you. I'd be glad to. Kind Village was the utopic idea I had when I thought about legacy building. I thought we were getting disconnected from each other because of technology. There became a screen in between two eyes looking at two other eyes, or looking at each other, a room. And I thought, it's disrupting our humanity. And I'm a technologist. I'm hyper trained in tech law, and I've built technology solutions and thought about it all. So I definitely consider myself a technologist. But how would we bring each other back to each other? How would we bring each other back to community? How would we leverage kindness, which is a value everybody shares? There isn't, a group, a culture in the world that doesn't have somewhere deep in it kindness as a priority. How do we make kinder places? How do we make kinder people? How do we have kinder responses to situations that challenge us? And so there became Kind Village. And so we started innovating. It was one of the first social enterprises in Canada. People didn't know at the time when we made it what a social enterprise was. I didn't like CEO as a title. It felt weird and dirty. And I thought, I'm not executing something, I'm impacting something. So I invented the title Chief Impact Officer. And we just started experimenting, trying to figure out what were the common things that everybody seems to say, think, or do, and is willing to do in relation to helping out. And we mapped it. We did big events and everything, and Kind Village was the vehicle of that. So we've had, cool projects. We've got, art on the walls of national museums. We've done events that have fed cities, for a whole day for no money, just everybody brought a little bit. We've shared research, we've built education programs, and we've launched a global movement from it. So
What are your hopes from Kind Village?
my hope is that it becomes the most powerful impact platform on the planet. That's my hope.
Okay, kind of lofty.
I was like, modest? I mean, come on. I didn't say I wanted it to make me a whole bunch of money. I just wanted to be the most powerful.
Is that where you spend your time?
I spend a lot of time on that, thinking about it, refining it. I work with other people too, though. I've worked with big corporations, helping them implement strategies to make them more sustainable, to help bring their values forward into action. I've advised companies and associations and industries on how to talk to government to bring priorities forward to help people be ready for skilled jobs. I work with charities to help advance digital skills and critical thinking priorities across Canada and the world. I advise the UN. I spend my time doing all kinds of stuff, but my heart and soul lives in the mission of Kind Village, absolutely.
And do you fundraise for it? Do you? What?
We are fundraising now.
How's it going?
We haven't even started. This is like the announcement number one. We're fundraising. Anybody here that wants to help? We took because we were so early thinking about philanthropic technology and trying to explain why it was so important to leverage technology to deal with issues around social cohesion, the lack of confidence people are having in their communities, the impacts of mental health. We had a lot of educating to do the last 10 years. And I also wanted to be an example for the charities and nonprofits we're supporting to say, look, I know it's scary that cash donations are down, but there are like 6 or 7 other types of capital that you could have contributed to allow your cash to go a little further, but give you the resources you need to actually do your mission. And we had to lead by example because at the beginning they didn't really believe us, but we've led by example. And so we didn't prioritize fundraising. We just said, let's see how far we could go just on in-kind. Like, let's be really, strict to the diet of in-kind and watch what happens. And, we eventually did get some money from the government. They helped us build out a platform for universities, colleges, elementary schools. And now we're ready to scale it.
And what's the next step?
Scaling
to...
Awesome. Some more colleges. So we've got some demand from the colleges and universities. We've had elementary schools raise issues, say they want it. We've had cities reach out and say, how can we bring it?
And how does it help in elementary school?
Wonderful. So a lot of elementary schools have a volunteering program or project. So they'll say to kids, they might be just little things like, parents, please send with your kids some gently used sneakers. At one point at my daughter's school, they were collecting shoes. And we thought, great, that's perfect. But how do you actually capture the data? How do you know how many kids did it? How do you know how many shoes you got? How do you know what problem the collection of those shoes actually impacted? Where did they go? All these kind of questions. And so we built a technology platform to capture all that and to make it really easy. So you can get like a volunteer log, and that's the basics. But we also created an education program so that teachers and schools know how to actually talk about this. What is in kind? How am I as a kid, just a kid? What do kids do? You know, what do they know? They know lots and they do lots. But as a kid, how can I be a philanthropist? That's a crazy idea to think a kid could be a philanthropist, but yes, they can. And so we've made materials for them to do that, and we've got ambassador programs, and we celebrate, and we do all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
What's the next program?
Corporate.
And how are you going to engage corporations?
So we did a test. It was one of our first tests. We worked with Ernst & Young, and we took on their staff. We had their managing partners support in Ottawa, and we mapped out what they kind of needed. They had lots of stuff that they wanted. We were trying to figure out, the question with them was, who's going to own it? Who's going to own the program in the company? Is it the chief marketing officer? Is it the CEO? Is it the head of HR? Now we have social impact people, so maybe it'd be them. We don't know. And we found there was actually shared desire to own this kind of activity. So we've got the platform ready. We now need to create the corporate profile so that all employees can just like join their company, and the company can collect all the data that the employees choose to share. So that's how the platform works. And so we've got a little bit of sort of white labeling activity to do on that side of things in our back end. And then it's making the book for the company. So it's not too much work, but that's our next bit.
And so what's it going to look like for Ernst & Young?
So Ernst & Young would become, for example, a kind business. So we have badges of honor we give our companies for coming. We want like Better Business Bureau, but you're kind business, and we think that's honestly like the best kind of business. But they'll invite their staff to all create profiles, and whoever wants to do it can, and they keep these profiles with them. So it's like LinkedIn, you always have your profile, so staff keep their profiles. Ernst & Young, for example, could make their profile, staff will join their team, and as a company they can say, look, on a giving day, just log what you did. Just tell us what you did. The charities will verify that they did it, and the little report of that thing, that activity will go up to automatically go up to the kind of head view. Where'd the idea come from? It came from looking at my life in a sliver of time and not knowing how much more time I had. And I was trying to figure out legacy, and I called charities. I called so many charities, and it was like, Tanya, we're so glad you called. Call us next week. Tanya, this is awesome. We're not sure what to do with you. We don't need legal help. And I said, I'm not offering legal help. I'll make sandwiches. Well, we don't need those. We're just not sure what to do with you. Call us next month. Tanya, there's a 6-month application process. And it just kept going.
That's so Canadian.
Right? And I'm like, 6 months? I could be dead next week. Are you guys crazy? I got a legacy to build. But they're like serving people. My legacy is the last, at least they're worried about. And I just, it could be easier. It could be easier. And what if we could just get their list ready sooner? They know what they need. They just need a minute to focus on it. Answering a random call and figuring it out on the spot's never a good idea. So we just started playing with that problem and wanting to fix it, and so we did.
Amazing. After people hear this podcast, what would you like them to do?
Well, as you now know, we are seeking support financially to build more projects. But if anybody's actually interested in bringing this tool and the technology and the programming into their schools, we're ready for that. If they want to bring it into their business and they want to work with us on a bigger pilot, we'd love to have them. If they have just the capacity to share, let people know about it, because my goal, and certainly our team's goal, so it's not just me, we have a team of amazing people that have just poured the heart into this. We want to see 1 billion in-kind contributions made, and made in our platform so that we can record them all by 2030. 1 billion. So it's very doable. We've reversed the math a few times just to make sure it's still very doable, but we need people to share this with other people. So spread the word, make it go viral.
On the moment that changed everything, I'm with Tanya Woods. Tanya, this was amazing. Recorded from Genius 100 Vision Summit in Los Cabos, Mexico. I'm Lawrence Metrick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To learn more about how you can support G100 initiatives, visit genius100visions.com.